Pockets dry. And I was wrong, I'm sorry, and I love you. I was wrong, I'm sorry, and I love you. I was wrong, I'm sorry, and I love you. I have misled you. I have misread you. I've cared too much and not enough in the same breath. You've been my hope, my stretch of rope in life and death. And I was wrong, I'm sorry, and I love you. I was wrong, I'm sorry, and I love you. I was wrong, I'm sorry, and I love you. I love you. Ooh. I love you. Okay, I'll admit it, I was wrong. I recently made a YouTube short just expressing this, but I don't think it was enough. 1 week ago today, I posted a video about my first impressions of the Leica M10-R compared against the M10, which I had been shooting for a little while. And after only having the camera for a few hours, I was really disappointed. And if you recall from the video, which of course I'll link it above as well, but if you recall from the video, there were 3 things that I was having a problem with. The first was that the metering was different than I was used to with the M10, but now I know why. The second was that the colors that were coming out of the camera were just not what I was used to with the M10, and I very much was preferring the colors out of the M10. And the third thing, and probably the thing that was the most worrisome, was that the camera was actually freezing on me multiple times. And that obviously was super concerning because I don't want to risk being out on a shoot and having the camera lock up in a way that requires me taking the battery out and putting the battery back in. So for those 3 reasons, I made the video that I did and shared my concerns to anybody else that might be looking to upgrade from the M10 to the M10R. But after a week and a few thousand photos later, I think I've changed my mind. And before you say that my first video was premature, which it very well may have been, I really wanted to make a video about my gut reaction and my first impression. So I'm going to stand by the things that I said, but now I possess a little bit of a greater understanding of those things, as well as assurance that should any issue go wrong, the local Leica shop is going to take care of it. So let's talk about the things that have now put my mind at ease. Let's start with the metering. The base ISO of the M10R is actually lower than the base ISO of the M10, which means it's going to meter differently. I have found that the M10R meters things a touch brighter than the M10 did, but you can overcome that when you're shooting by using the exposure compensation or just your own knowledge on how you want to expose. I will admit that I have set the M10R up a little differently than I did with the M10. I'm using the shutter in automatic mode a little more than I am when I would typically just dial in the shutter. And I'm also using exposure compensation, which I really hardly ever use on any other system. But I'm using it here, and I've got it exposed down to -1. Because when I get my raw files into Lightroom, that looks like a great starting point for my workflow. So metering really isn't as big of a deal, maybe as I thought it was. But I'm gonna actually touch on a little more metering information in this next section, which was about the colors. When you're dealing with a lower resolution camera like the M10 with 24 megapixels or the M240 before it, there's only so many pixels and so much data that your presets and your workflow and your color grading can grab onto. So for that reason, as you think through like when we talk about like micro contrast in a lens or how the sensor interprets light, there really is only so much data to work with in a lower res file. As you get into higher res files like with the M10R or the M11 or any other system like the Sony A7R5, which is my main commercial camera, you just have more pixels and more data for your color grading to grab onto. And I will say that I am like really impressed at how the M10R files color grade, even compared to the M10, which looks phenomenal, right? The M10 has a beautiful look, but with the M10R files, I'm able to get a little more punch, color, and just overall feel that I go for. I'm able to push that a lot further with the M10R. That I can't really describe it other than just like as I'm editing, I feel it. I can see the difference. I feel like that my photos have a little more pop, a little more of my intention when I color grade shows up on the M10R files compared to the M10 files. In fact, the preset that I offer at verygoodpresets.com, my emulation of Portra 400, I think it looks amazing on the M10, but it looks like extra good on the M10R. I posted on Instagram recently a set of photos I took with the M10R, and I used the Portra 400 preset pack from Very Good Presets, and they just look so good with one click and maybe one or two modifiers. Now the M10 files look great as well. That's the initial one that I shared whenever I shared about Very Good Presets, but the M10R files, like, they take that preset even to a new level. It's actually pretty awesome. So how does that play in with the metering? Well, part of what this upgraded sensor can do, the more high-res sensor and newer sensor, is that it has more dynamic range, which means that there are more stops in the dynamic range to either save your highlights or boost your shadows. So when you're metering and the photos are a little on the bright side, the highlight data is actually still there, whereas maybe on the M10 it wasn't there quite as much. And I would say that's similar to like my Q2. It's very easy to blow your highlights out on the Q2, but this M10R just has incredible dynamic range that's able to retain those highlights. And so the M10R, it actually looks a little brighter when I'm exposing, which is why I've got exposure compensation set at -1, which I feel looks normal, but all that data is still there. Whereas on the M10, the data wasn't always there if the highlights got pushed a little too hot or a little too high. So those first two things, the metering and the colors, I feel like I have come to terms with, and I'm actually happy with them now compared to where I was 7 days ago. And all of this, I know, probably comes across super premature, or maybe even a touch whiny. That's what someone said in one of the comments. Let's talk about the freezing issue. I took my Leica M10R to my local Leica shop in San Francisco, right in the financial district, and visited with the staff there. Even before this issue, I would confidently tell you that Camera West, which is the company that owns the Leica store in San Francisco and has another location or other locations as well, the guys and gals at Camera West are just the best. So the Leica store staff are some of the same people that work across the bay at Camera West in Walnut Creek. And one of the guys there, his name is Sean. So Sean, if you ever see this video, you're awesome. A while ago, I picked up an M6 from Camera West, but my M6 ended up having a small light leak. And I took it back to Sean and I said, hey, can we figure out what's going on here? And he was able to find the problem and then told me he would get it taken care of. And he's done that, which is incredible. I did not buy this camera from the Leica store from Camera West. I didn't buy it from them. But I took the camera in there to have him see my freezing issue. He saw my videos. I emailed him before I even showed up, and he had done a little research. And when I got in, he took the camera and did just a wide range of tests on it and could not recreate the problem. But what I appreciate about my experience with him and just with the Leica staff in general is that rather than kind of deny that there is a problem, they told me that, I mean, it could be something as simple as the card, or maybe it was the card I had in, or the cards I was trying with a brand of cards. It could be as easy as that, but it could be more serious. There could be something wrong with the logic board that is inside this camera. Time will have to tell. But what he told me was that if there's any issues, just bring it over and they'll get it taken care of. And you just don't get that level of service if you're buying from Amazon or honestly, even some of the major online retailers. But having a local staff and having a local shop, that's incredible. So if you have a local camera shop, no matter what brand you shoot, get to know the people at your local shop. Buy from them, sell them gear. Take the little bit of loss, when you sell your gear. Consider selling it to your shop. You don't have to eBay everything or Facebook Marketplace because you're investing in the local shop, which needs to make money to stay open. Same with buying equipment. Now, yes, it does often make sense to not buy from a camera shop because of their markup and, you know, they're paying their staff and their brick and mortar stores. But at the same time, like sometimes the intrinsic value of buying local beats the used market or even the big box retailer market. I'm okay paying some markup if it means that I can go talk to Sean when I need to. So the peace of mind that I have that if anything goes wrong with this camera, I've got a local shop with a local staff that's going to help resolve it. That's amazing. I am part of Sony Pro. There's a lot of benefits to being part of the Sony Pro network. Things like loaners or repairs, and I've had to use this stuff before. But there's something about the Leica community, at least here in the Bay, that feels kind of like a family. I don't know, I can't describe it, but that peace of mind that just comes with that security, it's kind of put my mind and my heart at ease about the M10R and the concerns I was having. Also, I have been shooting it a lot and it hasn't frozen again. So I'm pretty much at peace with that issue. So all of this to say, I was wrong. I'm sorry, and I love you. Thank you guys for watching. If you have questions, comments, or even experiences you want to share, be sure to do so. I read every comment. I try to reply to every comment. I say this often, but I really love the community that is here on YouTube. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.